Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean, and this is a response video to Dream Chasing Boxing. I made a video yesterday about Deontay Wilder. He made a response video to it. It's a good video. Go and check it out if you haven't seen it. He made some very good points. But I do want to talk about a couple of things that you said, and I want to respond to a few things that you said. First of all, you said that I said Stiverne was the only half-decent opponent that Wilder had fought. You kind of let me have that one, but your tone of voice suggested that you didn't really agree with it. And to be honest with you, you're probably right. That's probably a bit of an exaggeration on my part to say that he's the only half-decent opponent. That's kind of a bit disrespectful to some of his opponents, I think. He hasn't fought great competition, we know that, but some of them are okay. People like Spilka, Duhapar, Gerald Washington, they're not bad. So to say that Stiverne is the only half-decent opponent is, a bit over the top. I take that back. Another thing I want to clarify: I'm not saying that Joseph Parker, not just you, but a few people in my comments as well, have got the idea that I'm saying Joseph Parker now just can go and fight as many voluntary defences as he wants and basically do what Wilder has done and just forget about unifying, forget about fighting Wilder, Joshua, etc. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. Of course, I want to see a unified champion. What I'm saying, quite specifically, is that if Joseph Parker has one voluntary defence after fighting his manager, I won't begrudge him that. Boxing's a hard game. He's put in a lot of work over the years. If he wants to make a load of money in one voluntary defence, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have this real sense of urgency that everything needs to get done immediately. And I don't think Deontay Wilder is in any position to be sort of dictating that to people. That's basically the point of my video. Like now, suddenly this sort of urgency that things need to get done right away. Well, slow down, mate. I mean, this wasn't your attitude until very recently. So, Joseph Parker, in my opinion, has every right to have a single voluntary defence. Now, after that, I would, like to see him unify. If that offer's still on the table, if he gets that challenges like that, take it on and let's see a unified champion. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he can have 3 fights. He can have this one, and now he's like, I've got 4 left. No, I'm not saying that. I just want to clarify that. To be honest with you, I don't expect Joseph Parker to beat Hughie Fury. I think Hughie Fury is going to beat him. I made a prediction for that fight before it was going to happen, and I certainly saying that Hughie Fury would win, and I certainly haven't changed my opinion based on Parker's last performance. So I don't think he's really going to be in the equation after that. Maybe I'm wrong. Most people disagree with me there, but that's what I think. You said as well that I said, having seen Wilder's 5 voluntary defences, that tells me all I need to know about him wanting to unify. Now, what I mean by that is when he won his belt, Vladimir Klitschko had the other belt. Now, if you look at, he may have said this and that. I don't really pay too much attention to what people say. I don't expect him to say anything other than that. And if people are asking him about it, then that's just pretty standard. That's what people do. So I look at the people he chose. He chose to fight after that, and none of them gave me the impression that he's ready for that level. Now that tells me that his team are thinking, we've got this belt, he's got good potential, but he's not ready yet. There's no way, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, Al Heyman would have let him anywhere near Vladimir Klitschko. And I think, with good reason, I think he wouldn't have stood a chance against Vladimir. I wouldn't say he wouldn't have stood a chance. That's obviously he's got a chance against everyone. He's got a very big puncher's chance against anyone. But I think that would have been way too early for him to fight Vladimir Klitschko. And this was before Vladimir Klitschko got convincingly beaten by Tyson Fury as well. So that's what I think. You look at the people that they chose to fight, and that to me shows me the intent that they had and the faith they had in him. Now, this is something I wanted to say. This seems to be an idea, seems to be a way of thinking that it's okay to, if you can't fight the number 1 or number 2, then okay, it's either that or nothing. So Vladimir Klitschko's fighting Tyson Fury, whatever. So okay, so we're not going to fight like one of the next people are about. We're not going to fight, for example, trying to fight someone like Pulev, Luis Ortiz, even sort of David Haye, Dylan White, people like this. We're going to fight someone who is, much lower down than them, and that is what I'm saying. He may or may not have tried to fight the top people. We can argue about that. That's not really what I'm saying here. But in terms of when he's had a choice of people to fight, he's picked very underwhelming opponents, which is why I feel, he sort of reaped what he sowed to that extent. That's why his reputation, that's why his stock around the world has been damaged by that. So, yeah, one of my well, he's not one of my subscribers. I don't think he's just someone who left a couple of comments on this video. A couple of good comments. Like fair play to him. It's called Asot God Gig or Asot God Gig. I don't know I don't know how you pronounce it. But yeah, anyway, he left a couple of good comments. Asked me a couple of questions, so I'm going to try and respond to them a little bit. He said to me, "What better challenges could Wilder have taken on that I would have been satisfied with, rather than the opponents that he fought?" Now, I haven't thoroughly researched this video. I don't have timelines, who was available, who was injured, who was fighting who, etc., etc. I don't have that, so you could possibly debunk what I'm saying, but my impression is this: 5 voluntary defences. Now, let's say out of those 5 voluntary defences, 3 of those times he was just really, really unlucky. Everything, the universe had basically conspired against him. So the best possible opponents that he could have had to justify being calling himself a world champion were the opponents that he chose. I doubt it, but let's say that's a possibility. That still leaves at least 2 times, really, where he's basically failed to take on an adequate challenge, what we would expect to see, especially with the reputation he had and the record that he had of very uninspiring. He needed, in my opinion, to prove himself. So when you get voluntary defence, okay, the first one was like Molina. It wasn't very good. I didn't make a big deal out of that. I thought that was basically his first one. Whatever, no problem. Second one, Duapart, never heard of him either. I was thinking, okay, I understand the circumstances with Povetkin. Then the third one, who was the third one? Was it Areola or Spilka? I don't remember. I think it was Spilka. Again, it's it's all right, but this is not what we want to see. This isn't the better. And then Areola. I understand that was from an injury or something, but still, you can't tell me Areola was the best possible opponent. He's not one of the best opponents in America. I don't want to be too hard on Areola because I like the bloke, but he was shocking in that fight. He was literally sort of moving around. He reminded me of some old bloke, going for a piss in the middle of the night trying to find a light. He was literally sort of walking around this. Deontay was just teeing off on it. It was terrible. In America, you've got people like Brian Jennings, Jarrell Miller. I don't know who else. Even someone like Dominic Breazeale. Someone who wasn't just sort of no disrespect, washed up and basically just passed it like Areola. There are plenty of people out there that would be better than the people that he's chosen. People like Pulev, people like David Haye, Dylan White, for example. People who actually come to fight. Not just people who are there just to sort of lie down and not give you any kind of challenge. Recent example, Luis Ortiz. Now, Luis Ortiz, he chose to fight your man Warzak. Now, Warzak, nobody wanted to see that fight. Even Wilder fans were watching it. Oh, for fuck's sake, who's this bloke? Warzak. He's a nobody. His own sort of highlight reel was getting sparked out by Povetkin. Nobody wanted to see that. Okay, then he pulls out. Everybody's been heavily criticising Wilder. This kind of highlights the fact that a lot of people see him as a paper champion. Luis Ortiz throws his hat into the ring. He's got 3 weeks notice. Wilder's been training. You now have a position to prove yourself, to show that you are a proper champion, taking on tough challenges. And he didn't do that. He chose not to. He chose to fight Gerald Washington instead. Gerald Washington, I mean, he's all right. He's not bad, but he's basically big. He's like a big athlete, but he's not. He's not a fighter, is he? I mean, you saw in that fight, he took a couple of punches and just folded. Basically, he's not a fighting man. He's not someone like, even as I say, someone like Dominic Breazeale. Dominic Breazeale would put up a fight against. Well, I'd like to see that. Dylan White. I'd love to see Dylan White against Deontay Wilder. Jarrell Miller. There are people who've got like a fighting spirit at least, and will give him a good go. So Luis Ortiz would have had less time to train, and that would have given him credibility. That would have stamped himself as a proper legitimate champion. He would have a good chance of beating Ortiz. It's not like, I'm guaranteed to win like most of his opponents, but he would have had a good chance of winning. He would have had a good chance of losing too. But that's what you're supposed to do when you're a champion. So I don't want to hear all this like, oh well, he was sort of doesn't have time to repair. He injured his hand. You're supposed to be world champion, the world heavyweight champion. We're not talking about like you're some sort of office boy who's going to step in and we're asking you to do like no, you're the world heavyweight champion who's supposed to be like some knockout artist, big bad Deontay Wilder, and you're just sort of turning down like a proper challenge when you've never really taken one on in the past. That was my problem, and that's why I think he missed an opportunity to prove himself. So now him, going around saying this, like sort of, it's not even really him to be fair, it's his fans. A lot of his fans, sort of criticising other people for not like immediately stepping on. I just think it's a bit rich. So that's an example, like an obvious example of who he could have fought at that time. So yeah, I can't really remember what else. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think, just in summary, I don't think Joseph Parker should be allowed to have. Should be allowed. I don't think it's acceptable for Joseph Parker to just constantly swerve Wilder. But yeah, if he wants to have like one fight, why not? That's what I think. You can agree or disagree, but I don't see that as a major problem. In terms of Anthony Joshua avoiding Deontay, I mean, based on what? Anthony Joshua wouldn't avoid anyone. I'm telling you now. The reason why I don't have this great sort of sense of urgency for this is another thing actually, just quickly from the same bloke, Asot God Gig. He was saying like, well, if you take off Klitschko, Wilder and Joshua are basically the same thing. Joshua's had 19 fights. Nobody was criticising Deontay Wilder after 19 fights when he fought, I don't know who. I mean, he probably doesn't even know who. Nobody was talking about that then. He was, fair enough, Anthony Joshua won a world title, but still, you're trying to compare the record of Anthony Joshua to Deontay Wilder, then that sort of tells its own story, doesn't it? About why people are criticising Deontay Wilder. The fact that he's being compared to people who've had half as many fights as him, and you're saying, oh, well, this person with only half as many fights has only got a slightly better record than him. I mean, come on. Do you know what I mean? What's going on? So, to say that Anthony Joshua is basically ducking, it's just nonsense. Anthony Joshua went to the world... I don't know where it was, in Azerbaijan, went to like the sort of world championships as an amateur with basically no experience and just went straight in there, some of the best people in the world, and took it to him. That's what Andy Joshua's like. He went in a 19th fight to take Vladimir Klitschko in front of 90,000 people. So, put a bit of respect on his name. He's not someone who's going to be avoiding anyone. So if Deontay Wilder wants to basically sort of make up for lost time and wants to basically get to where Anthony Joshua is, you know what I mean? Fine. I nothing wrong with like trying to, nothing wrong with trying to sort of make up for lost time. Nothing wrong with sort of saying, right, now let's, I've done this in the past. Now I want to improve. Now I want to kind of make up for that. Fine. But let's not start talking about sort of Anthony Joshua's ducking. Like, based on what? The reason why I don't have this sort of sense of urgency for Anthony Joshua is because I have every confidence that Anthony Joshua is going to give us a very good fight. He's going to fight Luis Ortiz, Pulev. These are both very good fights. He's going to fight Deontay Wilder. He's going to fight Tyson Fury. He's going to fight whoever's out there. Anthony Joshua is going to fight them. I've got no doubt about that. So that's why I'm not worried. I'm not kind of thinking, oh, he needs to do this right now because this person needs to say it. So that's basically what I think about that. So that's why this whole sense of urgency comes from basically Deontay Wilder, and I wouldn't say like guilt is the right word, but a kind of an understanding that he needs to step up his game, and his fans are kind of desperate for him to get the same respect around the world as Anthony Joshua. Well, quite frankly, that's his problem. That's no one else's problem. Fair play to Deontay Wilder. I like the bloke. Draw a line under it. We can start from now. He's going to do it. Good luck to him. But don't start criticising Joshua and calling him, like saying he's ducking Wilder, because there's basically zero evidence for that. Wilder's time will come, and the fight will happen. Another thing, yeah, Black Fight Fan TV, my man, Black Fight Fan TV, he put on my video that that's why I don't want these fights to happen. Now I don't know if you're joking or if you're serious, but trust me, I do want to see these fights happen. Why would I not want to see these fights happen? It's boxing. If people lose, they lose. It doesn't matter. These are heavyweights. So if Anthony Joshua fights Deontay Wilder 100 times, then neither of them are going to win 100, are they? They're going to take losses. It doesn't matter. I like both of them. Obviously, I'm supporting Anthony Joshua. He's English, so I'm on his side. But I like Wilder too. If he wins, fair play to him. Do you know what I mean? It's a sport at the end of the day. We're not talking war. It doesn't really matter. So there's nothing like from me or from anyone else that I've seen that wants to stop this fight happening. This is just some, I don't know, man. This is some idea in America, this kind of myth of Deontay Wilder that people don't want to see him fight these people. Of course we want to see him fight these people. But we know that Anthony Joshua is going to have all these big fights. Deontay Wilder, he's just one of them. The truth is, he's not that special. Like, I'm not trying to take the piss, but he's just another champion. So in America, you're now like pushing out this idea that Deontay Wilder, he's the man, and everybody needs to fight. No, they don't. If he's gonna fight like Fury, Ortiz, Wilder, well, it's just another fight. It's just another like one of the top heavyweights that he's gonna fight. So the world doesn't revolve around Deontay Wilder. I know you lot want like another heavyweight champion in America, probably heavyweight champion, and there's nothing wrong with you lot pushing for these fights. Fine, don't have a problem with that. I'm not trying to stop them. Of course I'm not. Do you know what I mean? These fights will get made, but Deontay Wilder is basically where he is due to his own doing. So that's it, really. So the fights will get made. He obviously has a greater sense of urgency than anyone else because he needs to prove himself, and that's basically what it comes down to. So good luck to him. Hopefully he can, and when it does happen, may the best man win. So yeah, that's all I have to say. It's been a bit long, quite a few things I wanted to respond to. Thank you very much for watching.